Welcome to the Biz Coach Show. In every episode, we share information and advice for small business owners, small business leaders, startups, and entrepreneurs preparing to launch their business. Our mission is to give entrepreneurs the edge they need to succeed. If you're in need of business coaching, head over to mybizcoaches.co and book your free coaching consultation today. The Biz Coach Show is presented by Eric Whitmoyer, the owner of My Biz Coaches, a business coach, serial entrepreneur, author, and speaker, as well as David Macon, a certified professional in talent development, growth expert, writer, and small business strategist. Well, Eric, how are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent, David. And yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. I don't know about excellent, so you may have me beat there, but I'm doing pretty good. So always good to hang out with you. And we've got a good topic here today. It's interesting, obviously you're posting a lot on LinkedIn. And by the way, if you guys don't follow Eric on LinkedIn, definitely search him up. He's always posting great articles, content. Definitely want to check that out. But you had kind of shared or reshared a post on the Dream Team and kind of the importance of building a Dream Team, especially as a small business owner. And just kind of wanted to dive a little bit deeper into that topic here today. So when we're talking about Dream Team, kind of walk us through, why is this an important concept and what kind of got you excited about kind of reposting that?
Yeah, appreciate that, David. Let me start with the concept of a Dream Team and I think one of the opportunities here in the context of the messaging that was out on the LinkedIn, as you mentioned, I reposted somebody else's content, and one of the topics was how challenging it could be to develop a dream team, right? Yeah. And although I agree with it theoretically, the reality is it's not impossible to develop a dream team. It does take time. It does require a process, and we'll actually spend some time today going through the 9 steps that I outlined in the email or the post that I shared. Sorry, scratch that. I didn't actually share the 9 steps. I have the 9 steps. I'm going to share those today. But I told them that there is a good process that I have. I believe it works really well to develop that dream team. But when people hear that, often they think of unique teams. The '92 U.S. Olympic men's basketball team, right? That was the original
Dream Team.
Yeah, there you go. And the original Dream Team. The challenge with that is it was, for lack of a better description, it was lightning striking, right? It was the one in a couple of million or whatever it is, but it was a unique circumstance because up until that point in the Olympics, they hadn't allowed professionals to play or participate in the Olympics. And that was the first year that they did. And then we were able to put a pretty significant team together to compete, and they crushed the Olympics. But that aside, there's a unique dichotomy to that because if you compare that to, for instance, the 1980 U.S. men's hockey team, for about 20 years, from 1960 to 1980, the U.S. Men's hockey was not competitive at all, and the biggest gripe was because most of the Eastern European teams and many other teams throughout the world had professional players playing on their Olympic team, even though that wasn't technically the way it was supposed to be created. You weren't supposed to be a professional player playing in the Olympics. And so for the longest time, this was a big issue because it was, it was questionable as to whether or not all the teams were playing on the same level playing field, right? And all of that aside, in 1980, I can't remember his last name, but Herb was the coach of that U.S. Olympic hockey team, and he banded together a number of. They were all college students, graduates, some of them, all played at different, at the collegiate level. None of them were professionals, but he was able to put a team on the ice that played together as a team. None of them were superstars. Certainly superstars at the collegiate level, but the leap from collegiate to professional is pretty substantial for those of you not familiar with the professional sports. And it's likely, I can't remember the specific statistic, but the percentage of people that go from collegiate to professional is probably the top. If it's not at least 10%, it might even be lower than that. But it's definitely a very small percentage of people that convert from collegiate to professional. Anyway, the point was that team actually took the gold medal and beat what at that time was the most dominant team in the Olympics on an international level, which was the Russian team. And they had owned the Olympics and all international competition in hockey, men's hockey, for about 20 years. And to continue to put out teams like that, with that and compete at that level, right? At that, it was unheard of. And so for the U.S. team to beat them with a bunch of no names that just come out of college because they learned to play together as a team, they had a very specific strategy. They had a very specific process. The coach was adamant about what it was going to take to beat that particular team because they were the team to beat for certain.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, they actually beat them in the bronze medal round, and then went on to beat the other team. And I couldn't tell you who it was at this time. It was Sweden or one of the Norwegian teams or something like
somewhere where it snows a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But the point was that was really unique in the sense that there were no professionals, and we were still able to do it. We were still able to overcome it. Great story. If you ever watched the movie Miracle, it kind of pulls that together. It's a great opportunity to kind of learn more about that. But that aside, when you kind of talk about the dream team, the reason it is so hard to build the dream team is because you have a lot of ego.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, when you're talking about a dream team, you're talking about the best of the best in their areas. And if you have a lot of people that are really good at what they do, there's a lot of ego involved in that. Ironically, if you're not necessarily a big fan of sports, you can also watch Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer was about Dr. Oppenheimer, who was the creator of the atom bomb. But was it the hydrogen? I think it was the atom. It was the atom bomb. But the point is that the team that he created to build that, put all the political stuff aside and all that kind of and all the wartime stuff, put it all aside. The people he brought together to work on that project were some of the smartest people in the world.
Yeah.
And to be the orchestrator that ties all those key people together, all that ego, everything that's evolved around being the best at what you do, and then taking the best of what you do and the best at what I do and the best that somebody else does, and tying that all together and having all those people work in unison is an exception.
Yeah.
That is far and away probably one of the most challenging things to try and do. So to be fair to the person that posted on the follow-up on the Dream Team post to talk about how hard it is difficult for certain. And one of the things that I would venture to say is that you may find that your dream team isn't necessarily a combination of all of the best in those categories. They may be the top 5%,
right,
or the top 10%. There'll definitely be some of the best, but you may not find that those individuals necessarily play together well with others.
Yeah, almost guaranteed they won't. In fact, I'd say, right, and you have to be a strong leader to manage those personalities.
And that's the key, right? Yeah. That's honestly, that would be the comment that I would share with somebody when they're talking about building a dream team, is that the individual in charge of that team, the leader that's pulling all of that together, the one that is in fact orchestrating all of that, they have to be confident enough in their skills and their abilities to know that they're recruiting people that are probably way better in certain areas of whatever it is that you're focused on than they are themselves. And they're confident in their own abilities and their ability to get people to work together in unison, and they have enough confidence in their strategies and their concepts, what they believe is going to work, because otherwise the egos will they'll just tear it apart, right? You'll just run into problem after problem after problem. Yeah. But yeah, to your point, the likelihood of the best being able to play together, that might be a stretch, but to have a true dream team in my eyes, I'm saying it's a combination between the 80 Olympic team with a phenomenal strategy who took the best of the best and made them play together as a team, as well as the 92 basketball Olympic team that was really some of the best in that regard, right? So you take the combination of the two. It may not be the very best at every position or every skill set, but it'll be some of the best in the world. And you get them to play together as a group, and then what you can accomplish is off the charts.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought we were going to be talking about Space Jam when we were talking about Dream Team, but apparently I was off. It's the 1992 team. Yeah.
Well, David, we know that your understanding of many of the sports is not quite.
I could have zoned out for about 5 minutes there, but
fair enough.
Lord of the Rings, maybe, Gandalf.
Yeah, there you go.
Like it,
Okay.
maybe, I don't know. But
all right, so if the elves come together with the dwarves.
Yes, yeah. Okay, now I'm getting it. Awesome. No, it's as you were saying that too. One of the things I was thinking about was, and I think we've talked about it in a couple episodes, is kind of the talent development strategy around you can build talent, you can borrow talent, or buy talent, right? So when you're assembling a team, traditionally, I prefer to build a team, right, and get them to a level where they're at, peak performance. That's not always the right strategy or the best strategy, right? You can borrow talent where you're hiring, freelancers or contractors or whatever, subcontract things out, or you can buy, right, which it's going to be expensive to get the top 10%, to your point, or even top 20%, and you got to be able to throw, a decent comp package their way to get that person on your team. And so I think it's important to understand, you're going to have some pain in that process one way or the other, whether it's, time and effort or financially, but that's what it takes to get that team assembled.
Absolutely. Yeah. And all of that said, without the right strategy, it won't work.
True. Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the piece that I think that, and I think that honestly, I think that's the piece that a lot of people will shy away from.
Yeah.
Right. If you're, I say this because I felt I was pretty good at managing strong teams, but the reality is that you have to have a certain level of confidence, almost borderline overconfident, to be able to take on a task like that and challenge people in a way that makes them dig deep. Because remember, the key of the key role of a leader isn't necessarily to it isn't about the leader.
Right.
It's about the leader getting the best out of the individual contributors and then working together as a cohesive unit. So an effective leader that can really pull in a top quality talent, multiple top quality talents, like you were suggesting, that's a whole nother piece to it. So again, regardless of, when who's on your dream team has to have a phenomenal leader.
Yeah.
Right. And then as you pull it together, they have to have a really strong strategy that's going to accentuate your strengths, offset your weaknesses and recognize how you can, and even then assess who's your competition.
Right.
Right. It's particularly, depending on the field of battle that you're choosing. Right. The reality is you need to also know who your competition is so you can know how best to leverage those opportunities.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, I know you've got a couple of things that you've used over the years to assemble some pretty amazing teams, dare say dream team. And I think nine kind of key things that you think about when you're going through that process. Do you want to walk us through that?
Sure, absolutely. So the first one is to observe. I think that in any scenario, you have to do your due diligence. You have to look at what is the project as a whole. What are you trying to accomplish? How does everything fit together? For instance, using any of those analogies that we referenced, whether it's basketball or hockey or building an atom bomb, or building a good sales team, a sales organization, for instance, right? The reality is that you have to know what you need, right? You have to be able to look at that, compare that to other teams, compare it to other scenarios, compare it to past experience, project out what would you really like, what would it look like if it was perfect, right? And kind of draw back and forth between those corollaries, and then ultimately determine what it is, what are you already familiar with?
Yeah.
What do you know that you're inherently competent in, and then do the due diligence of what it is you need to understand. So the second piece of that then is to determine what are the most critical roles, right? So if you're, for instance, I'll use the basketball analogy. If there's a very critical role, for instance, in basketball, who handles the ball, right? We call it a point guard. Whoever handles the ball, that's a very intricate part of the entire operation, right? Because not only do they handle the ball and they control the speed and pace and tempo of the game, but they also determine where the ball goes, And so often what we find is that, as you're kind of assessing your team, right? For instance, you're trying to build a phenomenal sales organization. You also have to have an exceptional sales support team.
Yeah.
Right? Who supports that sales team? And if the sales support team isn't strong enough to keep up with the level of talent that you have on your sales organization, you will struggle.
Right.
If your fulfillment team can't keep up with the volume of the performance of the sales performance, you will struggle.
Yeah.
Right. So all the pieces have to work together. It's not just building a great sales team. If you want a successful sales organization, you need all the different contributing components need to be equally up to par. You can't have just one without the other. But what are the most critical, and then determine who are the players in that space.
Yeah.
Right. Who can you go after? If you're, to your point, if you're buying the talent, can you afford to buy that talent?
Right.
Can you build your own internal talent? Right. And can they compete at that level? Right. So that's a big one, is determining those pieces. Then you review it. Begin to determine who you already know. Who do you know? Who do you have access to? Who can be part of this dream team that you already have connections with, that are going to allow you to quickly bring key people in? Because part of recruiting to a dream team is having other dream team players.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Because if I come to you, David, and I say, hey, I'm building this dream team and I think you're a perfect fit, and you're like, who else do you have on the team? And I'm like, nobody yet. You're probably a little bit more apprehensive to join the team.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Or you get there and you're like, this is my teammates. Like, this is not, I thought they'd be at least my caliber, maybe even better, so I can learn something.
Exactly. Right? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, totally. No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So, and especially and I think that part of that also plays in the fact of recognizing what the key roles are in step 2 allows you that in step 3, as you begin to recruit for that top talent. If there's, a couple of key players that you're like, man, this is really if I can get this person to be on that team, I know that the odds of me getting that person are even better if I can get this person first.
Yeah.
Right. And so if I get this person on the team and I know they're on, or even these 2 people on the team, this person will come along because they want to be part of that.
Well, interesting comment on that is there's a great book. It's I forget the author. If I think of it or find it, I'll put in the show notes. But it's A Player Strategy, and it's attracting those top performers. But one of the things is when you're recruiting that high performing individual, asking, right, who else do you know that you think would be a fit for the team?
Absolutely.
Right? And then because they're probably have eagles flying together, so they probably know somebody.
That's a great point. And to that point, because eagles do fly together, right? No, actually, that's not entirely accurate. Actually, eagles fly alone, right? But they probably know other eagles. That's probably the analogy, right?
There you go.
The point is that somebody who operates at that level knows other. That's actually, there you go. It's a great analogy. SEAL team operators.
Yeah.
Right.
Perfect.
Anybody who operates at an elite level in the military, I don't care if they're Navy, Army, Marines, whatever. If they're an elite operator, they know of other elite operators.
Right.
Yeah. And they know who they want to work with.
Yeah.
So again, using that dream team analogy, while you're recruiting, and be like, David, who else do you think would be a good fit for our team?
Yep.
Right. Because then and the best part about that is that for all intents and purposes, you're going to recognize these are people I already have good synergies with.
Yes, absolutely.
So that reduces the amount of time that the leader then is going to have to spend time trying to create those synergies.
Right. Absolutely.
But you also, side note, you also don't want too much synergy.
Yeah.
That you fall into routines that allow you to, that would cause you to potentially gravitate down, because this is my comfort zone. If you're not outside your comfort zone, you're not actually operating at a high level.
Yeah. Yeah, true. You need a little friction.
You follow what I'm saying? You may not be stretching.
Yeah, absolutely.
You may not be stretching yourself enough. So it's finding that unique balance.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned earlier too, getting like in the sales versus sales operations versus fulfillment, it's important to think about how those different functional areas of the business or those individuals counterbalance one another, right? Because if you're too lopsided in one aspect of your business, that is going to create some significant challenges, right? And people aren't going to feel empowered to do things, or may not have the resources they need or the confidence. If you're a leader that's not backing them, they may not have the confidence to challenge that person that's pulling all the resources or effort, right? Those sorts of things. And so, keeping an eye on that, keeping those things in harmony is a real challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, all the more reason that you have to have a super strong leader.
Yep.
And as I say, I keep referencing leader. You also have the leader that's managing the team, but you also have leaders within the group.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Depending on how big the team is, you likely have a secondary and even a tertiary leader.
Yeah.
And each of them plays a significant role in maintaining certain components of the team. Right. It could be energy level. It could be continuity within the group. Right. It could be. I mean, there's just a number of different things you could play into that. Outside of strategy. For instance, I think back again to the U.S. Olympic hockey team, as we referenced that. Herb, and I want to say it was Keller, but I can't remember, so I'm not going to specifically say it. But as the head coach, he had his assistant coach, and his entire role was making sure that all the players played well together, that they gelled personally, interpersonally, right? All their different, he handled that part of it so that the coach could focus on what he was focused on.
Yeah.
And clearly identified that from the very beginning. And he said, this is your role.
Yeah.
Right. And so, again, and that goes back to that strategy and being very clear on what the strategy is, because then you can identify those responsibilities, and people are very familiar with what's expected of them.
Yeah. I want to clarify something you said to make sure I understand and make sure it's clear for our audience. So when you're talking about that secondary and tertiary leadership, are you talking about a formal, hierarchical structure? Or are you talking about like the team captain that's the leader within a peer group? Great
clarifying question. Yeah, I'm talking about like the team captain,
cool.
Not a traditional, just somebody who's the, if you're using a sports analogy, it'd be the team captain, right? That kind of leads the group while they're on the floor, but the coach is standing out on the sidelines, right?
Yeah.
Directing and orchestrating from the outside. But yeah.
Cool. And I said, you always see that in meetings too, right? Where it's the person that they look at when they're not sure if they want to say something, and they're hoping that person does. That's the peer leader that they're hoping has the team's back and is going to talk to the leader about it, right? So there's always
exactly
somebody's in that role, and it's important to know who that person is and understand the influence they have on the group dynamics for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, what's the next point?
So the fourth step is interviewing, right? While you're doing your research, you should have uncovered people that are the best at the roles that they have. Begin to talk to them. You also, while you're doing the interview process, you're gleaning insight into your project. This is likely, if you're building a dream team, you're setting off to do a project that's never been accomplished before. Right? So while you're doing that and you're talking to the best of the best in the world, theoretically, or in your space, whatever the case may be, you're going to gain insight, right? Even though you may be the leader, the coach, whatever you want to refer to it as, is the person who's bringing this all together, bringing these people together, you have this strategy. Your strategy may not be perfect.
Yeah.
And the best leaders recognize that they don't always have all of the answers.
Yeah.
And who else best to learn from than some of the best people in the world at what they do?
Yeah.
Right. Or in their space. Right. So considering that, recognize that you're dealing with some really high level knowledge individuals and that are going to be able to help you identify things that you didn't clearly understand. Again, I'll use the Oppenheimer analogy. If you watch that movie, you will see that there are times where Dr. Oppenheimer is engaging with these different physicists and other chemists and whatever their scientific backgrounds are, or whatever, and they're correcting him on some of the theories, or they're adjusting theories. I mean, some of the things that some of the insights and knowledge that came out of that project were world changing.
Yeah.
Right. And because you were able to get the smartest people in the world, so to speak, together on a particular project, you were able to learn from one another and challenge theories that had been tried and true theories for many, many years in some cases.
Yeah.
Right. So what's interesting about that is that as an intelligent leader going into a scenario like this, as you're beginning to interview, you're going to have people provide you, just like you mentioned, David, who else would you know that might be a good fit for this project? Right. What else do you know that I should know about embarking on this project?
Mm-hmm.
Because I may not be able to bring you in, David. You might not be interested in my project. It might be the right time for you. But you feel obligated to tell me that I might want to consider this particular point whatever, right? And incorporate that, because if you've got the best people in the world, you want to glean as much insight as you can from them. So what a great opportunity to do that while you're going through that interview process.
Love that. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Before we move on to the next one, I want to clarify something here again too. So one is, and maybe it's both, I don't know, but you're talking about you may be embarking on something that hasn't been done. So I want to tap into that for just a second. So one question or thought on that is, are you saying you only need a dream team when you're trying to do these big things that haven't been done before, and maybe you don't always need a dream team? Or is it you're only going to get the best if you've got this amazing mission, right? If you have a mediocre mission, you're not going to get superior talent. So is it one of those, both of those? Like, what? Help us unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a great question. One, I would initially say yes. You will struggle to get the best people unless the project is worthy.
Yep.
So if the project's not worthy, you're going to have a really hard time getting a dream team put together.
Yeah.
The project has to be compelling enough to bring the best of the best together.
So like destroying the One Ring in the Mount of Fire and Mount Doom. Right? That kind of project.
Not sure what movie that's from, but yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. The reality is that unless the project is big enough, and honestly, David, this goes back to a topic we've talked about many times before. Level B and level C players will not play with level A players.
Yep.
Right. Or sorry, right. Won't work for. Won't work for. B and C's won't work for a level A player, right? If I'm an A player, if I'm an A leader, I'll be able to recruit anybody I want to recruit.
Yeah.
But if I'm a B or C leader, I will not recruit type A level players, right? I just won't. Yeah. They won't gravitate to me.
Yeah.
Right. If they do, they won't stay long.
Yeah. I'd say even more so generationally now, because people are like, if I can't learn something from you, you're not helping advance my career, whatever, I'm moving on, right? I'm going to go find somebody that can.
Exactly. So I think that plays the same way in the regards to the project. Now, when I say the project has to be worthy, it doesn't have to be creating the atom bomb. It doesn't have to be competing in the Olympics, but it does have to be a worthy project. Right. So I will actually go back into my personal experience, and you can relate to this. We've talked about this immensely. There was a period of time where my sales organization at our previous employer was the number one sales organization for over 2.5 years.
Right. Yep.
And I tell people when I share this story, it's not to beat my chest. It's to help illustrate how significant the accomplishment was.
Right.
We were the number one division in the company for a wireless dealer that was the number one dealer in the nation, right, based on metrics, on key metrics, for a carrier that was the number one carrier in the nation based on net subscribers.
Right.
Right. So it was like the best of the best of the best.
Yeah. The true upper echelon, right? The top echelon of dealers and salespeople.
For 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Right. So we were beating the best of the best for 2.5 years. Right. And it's like when you think about that, it's like, okay, if we were number one in our company, okay, that's great. Yeah, that's good. Right. And we were a decent sized company, 140 locations during 130, 140 locations during that time. I think we probably had 1,800 employees, maybe 2,000 employees. I don't remember exactly, but no, probably about 1,500 employees. But my point is we were able to do that at a time when the company that we were representing, the brand, the product that we were representing, was the most popular brand in the nation.
Yeah.
Right. Based on net subscribers. I mean, they were outproducing the other carriers. So when you look at what we were doing with a brand that on a national scale was the best of the best, and we were outproducing those guys, and we were the best team within that organization at that time.
Yeah.
It's the best of the best of the best. And the reality is we did it for 2.5 years now. And we didn't just scrape by. Many months we were beating people by 15 or 20%. So I'm not going to say that we created a dream team per se, but I would definitely say that in the space that we were in and the time that we did it and what we accomplished, it was pretty darn close, probably as close as I'll ever get in my career, at least to this point anyway, the closest I've been to putting something like that together. And I did it with a completely unique and different strategy I did it because I focused on personnel development and creating better leaders, not focusing on tactical execution of day in and day out, tactics.
Yeah.
Right. It was much bigger than that. And not everybody saw my vision. As a matter of fact, it was a challenge over those years, particularly the first 6 or 8 months before the results started kicking in. A lot of people were pushing back.
Yeah. Well, and how much easier was it for you to attract and retain top tier talent when you had the team winning and achieving those results?
Oh, it was night and day. I mean, I could pick a particular market off the top of my head that I remember a year prior to that time frame, we were struggling to find people to come work for us. I mean, it was like pulling, it was probably the worst. It wasn't the worst. We're definitely one of the worst scenarios I had with trying to recruit talent. Fast forward a year later, and we have people picking up and moving from where they live to go work in that market to have the opportunity because it was so good, right? I mean, we're talking about people that didn't even work within our organization at that time, leaving where they lived to come work at our company in that market because there was so much of an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, people want to be on a winning team, right?
That's
I mean, there's a lot to that financially. I mean, the pride, right? All those sorts of things. And if you're just
growth opportunity,
yeah, totally. And I think if you haven't achieved the results yet, maybe you're just starting your business in your early stages, right? Then you have to have a winning vision, and you need to project that winning type of confidence to the people you're trying to bring in.
Yeah, and that's it's one of the pieces we talk about. That is probably one of the hardest parts as a leader of trying to build that team,
right?
Is having the confidence and sticking with it, right?
Yeah.
So recruiting, the next step is to recruit, continue to look for and find the best talent, and recognize, as I mentioned before, you may not always get the best of the best, but if you're in that top echelon, that top 3, 5, 7, 10%. They're in that caliber, but they can play as a team, then that's the right fit.
Yeah.
Right. Because if they're so isolated in their individual performance that they can't be a contributor in the team, what our organization was like. Our culture was, you don't, if you find a strategy that's winning, you don't just keep it to yourself and hoard it. Right. You share it within the organization, allow everybody within the organization benefit from it.
Yep.
And, a dream team would need to do that to be able to really benefit.
Sure.
So the 6th step is then to remember that A talent, so we already touched on this, A talent won't follow a B level leader, right? And so we kind of touched on that, but you need to be, you must be sharp and prepared and fully committed to the project. I think it's another big thing to think about.
Yeah.
As the leader, if you are not 100% committed to seeing the project through, not only will you not find top talent, you'll be lucky to find any talent because people can sniff that out. And if you lack confidence, then, you won't find the top talent. Even if you are a quality leader, but you lack the confidence in achieving the objective, they'll sniff that out and they'll be like, yeah, I don't see you guys winning. I don't want to be part of a losing operation.
Yeah. So I would say, just going back to the B leader, I'll give you a chance for a shameless plug here, but I think if somebody does recognize, hey, I'm struggling to attract, retain, or develop an A player, and they look in the mirror and say, maybe it's me, what value does a business coach have for somebody like that?
Great question. Thank you for that softball, by the way.
You're welcome.
I think that the most important piece that any kind of coach would really bring in that space would be helping them identify what are if somebody has that much self-awareness to recognize that the reason they're not finding the talent could be themselves. Anybody who's bold enough to acknowledge that has what it takes to be an A leader.
Yeah.
They just might not have refined certain skills. So the best part about that analogy that you just shared is that if they had enough competency, enough what was the word I just used? They could self-identify and recognize that it possibly could be themselves.
Yeah.
That's huge, right? Because I mean, that the level of maturity in their thinking process is pretty significant to come to that. Not often you don't see that with underdeveloped leaders.
Yeah.
So a leader that's willing to admit that they could be the gap, right? And more importantly, what are some of the things I could work on? That's what you need right there. Then as a coach, it's just identifying what are the potential gaps. And it could be something as simple as, you have a tendency not to listen effectively, right? It's like you hear, but don't listen, right? The words come in, but you still move forward with your own ideas and you're not allowing people to collaborate.
Yeah.
In a winning team, there's going to be collaboration. There needs to be collaboration. If you have the best of the best, you have to be able to collaborate. And even though as the leader, you have to be clear on your strategy and committed to it and all that kind of stuff, you also have to recognize that if what you're doing isn't working, then you have to be willing to pivot and adjust accordingly. And so, a strong leader is going to be able to a successful leader will need to be able to recognize that and adjust to that. A good coach will help somebody self-identify.
Yeah.
And I think help them find that.
Yeah. And I think it's important for, small business owners that are watching or listening to this, right? There's nobody above you, like in an organization. You don't have a CEO that's telling you, hey, let me help you, guide you or direct you and give you career feedback, or, some other supervisor. So where do you get it, right? Unless you're just insanely self-aware or you're really good at listening to feedback and implementing it, you have to get outside perspective, because it just doesn't exist in a small business if you're the owner, right? And that's really where that coach can come into play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, as you even say that, David, that's one of the things that in the years since I developed my biz coaches, or even as I embarked on this whole coaching business model, what I've uncovered is that probably the single biggest resource that I bring to a client is the ability to act as a sounding board.
Yeah.
To vet ideas, to challenge ideas, to suggest nuances in a strategy or something like that. There's so much value in that the owners may not necessarily be able to appreciate until they've worked with me long enough, or a coach, I should say, long enough to really see that play out.
Yeah.
The first couple of times you have an interesting conversation around, unintended consequences, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember doing that for years with our previous organization and kind of like, hey, we had this idea, we executed on it, it got us results, but one of the unintended consequences that's played out now is it's created this issue.
Yeah.
And how do we still continue to maximize the value of the results we're getting here while buffering against this unintended consequences detriment that we really don't want, that's crept up now and caused a problem for us.
Right. Makes sense.
So, and it's not easy to see that without the life experience to go along with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so the seventh step then is to don't forget a dream team is only as powerful the cohesiveness of the team. If the group can't or won't work together, it certainly won't perform as a dream team. And again, I go back to the analogy of the basketball team versus the Olympic gold. And I say that the 92 U.S. men's Olympic basketball team crushed everybody. I think I remember a game they beat somebody by 50 points or something ridiculous like that. In a game that would normally go to 120 points, they beat them by 50 points. That's not even in the same arena, right? We could have played all of our C players on the dream team and still beat them. It's like, but what made the hockey team so significant was the fact that they weren't necessarily that best of the best on an international scale, but they were able to play together in a unique, cohesive way that beat some of the best in the world.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was what made the difference very unique. And we've struggled immensely in years since to be able to field dream teams.
Right.
That do compete on a competitive level with some of the bigger international teams, because those international teams have learned the lesson. They've learned to play together as a team, and they don't have the same structures and dynamic issues in that you have all these egos trying to play together and all that fun stuff. So sometimes the best teams aren't necessarily the very best of the best. It's the best that can play together.
Yeah.
And so I continue to bring that together and bring that up as a key component of a team that's going to successfully play together and compete at that level. Another consideration is a dream team that performs at the highest level may not have the best contributors at every role. I mentioned that earlier. And I think that as you do the recruiting, vetting, who's going to play best together is part of that recruiting process, right? And there's an assessment component that I used to do, that I think that good leaders do, is they recognize what are the triggers for a guy like David. What sets him off? What really makes him excel at the next level? What are the things that will send David in this downward spiral, right? And as an effective leader, I need to know that all the time with any team that I manage. But with a dream team, it's a whole nother level of that expectation, right? Sure. I have to know how far I can push you before you fold on me. I have to know how hard I can push you, or what's going to get you to come back from a setback. Yeah. You know, I've got to understand you at a level. So I have to be a really, really good coach, leader, whatever you want to reference. Because if I'm not, and I'm not going to know how to get the best out of you. So really kind of diving into and understanding who's playing for me and how to get the best out of those individuals. And that if that's important in any leadership role, it's significantly more important with that type of caliber of individual and going after a project that big.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so the last thing is to remember that accomplishing something like this will likely take months and even years to bring it all together. But it will never happen if you wait until you have all the right pieces in place. That just doesn't work. Like any work of art, this will likely be a culmination of time, energy, and other valuable resources, but it'll be worth it in the end. Yeah. Right. So we talked about conviction, right? Sticking through it, even though doesn't seem to be working. Like anything in life, often if you look at it in a graph, you know, how things perform, you know, the Slight Edge by, I think it was Darren Hardy. Darren Hardy wrote The Slight Edge. It talks about your progression in anything is very minimal. So minimal, it's like watching grass grow. And then as momentum kicks in and as synergies come together, it starts taking off and you get the hockey stick effect where it just kind of takes off and goes up to the top right. But it takes a significant amount of time, and that, you know, how much time that is varies from project to project. But if you're talking about something on this level, it will likely take much longer. And I think the other thing about that is you can't say you've arrived.
Yeah.
Right. That's the last thing that I would suggest in that. Where
complacency creeps in.
Yeah, exactly. Because as soon as complacency does creep in, you're no longer the dream team.
Yeah.
Right. So recognizing one, that it's a long path and you have to have the conviction to stick to it, and your team has to have the conviction to stick to it.
Yeah.
Right. And so sticking with it, staying consistent with it, acknowledging the nuances that you need to adjust accordingly and making those adjustments as you move along, but having a conviction to stick it out and to see the to fruition. That's probably the most important part.
Nice. Well, hey, good points here. I've got two more questions for you just to wrap it up here. These are curveballs, so good luck.
Okay.
Doing softballs earlier, now I'm doing curveballs. So going back to leadership, because that seems to be a big theme here, right? And I dare say, based on what we've talked about, you're not going to have a dream team unless you're a tier A leader, right? So let me ask you this. Do you think every business owner has the capacity to become an A leader?
No, every business owner does not. And here's why. Not every, because most business owners are, or at least were, or originally entrepreneurs at heart, right? And probably still are.
Yeah.
And what makes a good entrepreneur doesn't necessarily make an exceptional leader.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest opportunities and or challenges for any business owner is to be willing to step aside and allow somebody else to manage that team, lead that team. Yeah. And, we can take, for example, Steve Jobs, classic example, right? If anybody knows Steve Jobs' legacy, he was thrown out of Apple originally, and Apple was struggling immensely. He was kicked out. I mean, there's a lot of nuances and BS and all that fun stuff behind it, but the reality was he struggled as a leader significantly, mostly because of interpersonal skill sets, right? Yeah. He was exceptional at getting everything out of top quality talent, but he was so harsh in the way that he did that he blew through so many people.
Yeah.
As he matured, he got better at finding that balance between the two, right? How do I get the best without crushing people's souls? And in doing so, he was able to create a phenomenal, Apple that we know today, right?
Yeah.
But Apple in the early, 10, 15 years, maybe, I don't remember exactly when that transition was, might've been 20 years, close to, it was on the verge of bankruptcy at least multiple times. And a lot of that wasn't just Jobs, although Jobs was part of that in the beginning, but eventually he had to realize that he had to hand over the reins. In the early days, the organization forced him to, the board forced him to.
Yeah.
But later on, he realized, okay, where I'm best suited is here. This is the role I should play.
Yep.
And he did the technological advances and things like that. And he became a better leader over time. But there was a time that you wouldn't want him to lead your team because, he might be able to push the engineers and challenge the engineers. But in the meantime, he could also blow out a whole bunch of people.
Yeah,
because he pushed too hard. Right. So, and that's, one extreme example, but the reality is that's very common for many owners. As a matter of fact, I saw a phenomenal video today by a gentleman by the name of Stephen Bartlett. He's on LinkedIn. So I've come to respect immensely. Did a great example of exactly, he called it founder chaos. And the issue is that the founder, right, has a passion and a vision, and they can see everything, every step from here to 20 years down the road. And they can see every little nuance of in their vision of their business. They can see every little component of it, and they see how it all intricately fits together. The average employee has no perspective and can't possibly envision, anywhere a fraction of what the founder sees. And so the problem is that, having a conversation with like somebody like that, who's very passionate about what they're trying to do, very much like I can do from time to time, very passionate about the goals, the ambitions and anticipations that I have for this business. If you get me going on it, it will be distracting because you can't follow along because you don't see all these pieces the way that I see them. The same problem that Jobs had, quite honestly.
Yeah.
So in the grand scheme of things, the reality is most owners can't focus in on that intricate step-by-step component, and they get lost in it, and consequently the employees get lost and can't follow. And so a good business owner that has that needs to recognize that they need to bring in a better coach. A great example: the owners of teams, professional teams, do not coach.
Yeah, good point.
Right? They bring in coaches.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that leads me to something I want to get your perspective on. If you're a coach, I know you're a big sports fan, and you have to choose between coaching the 1992 men's basketball team and the 1980 men's hockey team, which team would you rather coach?
I would take the hockey team.
And why is that?
Each of the scenarios was doing something that somebody else has never done.
Yeah.
The difference with the basketball team, there had been a long period of time where we weren't as competitive as we could have been. The analogy with the hockey team and that 20-year drought of being embarrassed year after year after year on an international scale, and not just with the Russians, but with many of the competitive U.S. hockey or men's hockey teams throughout the world. It was in my eyes, and maybe I'm a little bit more partial to it because I remember watching that show on TV. I remember watching. It was the wide world of sports for anybody who's old enough to remember that. But I remember watching that and literally watching the last couple of minutes of that game and watching them win. But my point being is that it was such of a dramatic disparity from where we had been for 20 years to win that. It was, I just look at that and I say the difference was it was so much more of an adjustment, or I'm trying to think of the word I want to use, but it was that much more of a difference from what the 92 men's basketball team. It was like, if you can't win with this team, I don't know how you couldn't, right?
Right.
But what they accomplished was significant. I mean, it was like they really trounced people, right?
Yeah.
And what should have been a 20-year, right, continuation of that really wasn't, not in my eyes, that the way that it should have been. But that accomplishment that they had in 1980 was pretty significant, and to do it with people like a ragtag team, they were some of the best college players in the United States. Although ironically, most of them never went on. As a matter of fact, if you watch the movie Miracle, watch the very last what they do is they go through and they list all the players that were on that team, and what they personally and professionally accomplished. Most of them were not professional hockey players. Their careers were in business and law and other categories and other areas, and they were pretty significant accomplishments. I mean, it was like after you learn how to do something that big like that, you go on to even bigger things in your life.
Yeah.
So it's pretty significant to look at that, and I think that says a lot about what they were able to accomplish in that particular team, and why I see the value in that.
Yeah. How did I know you were going to pick that?
Because I'm the quintessential underdog follower.
I knew it. Yeah. We both love a good underdog story. So cool. Well, hey, before we wrap up, great conversation today. A lot of great points. Thanks for kind of guiding us through that 9-step process that you use. Anything new kind of happening over at My Biz Coaches?
We rebranded. We've gone with mybizcoaches.co. The new site is up and running now. We made some adjustments. We're doubling down on our exposure on LinkedIn. So if you're looking for new content, you'll certainly find a lot of it on LinkedIn. We'll be expanding into the other social media as we really refine the new strategy and determine exactly where it is and where we want to go with that new that focus that we're really tying into. But talking about some specific niches that we're looking to go into, particular categories where we really feel like there's certain clients that we can help even better. So we really want to dial those in, but certainly we're open to, we know we can help everybody. There's just certain categories of business where we think we can really make an impact, and we want to focus on that a little bit more. But anyway, so as it stands right now, that's a big focus for our strategy for marketing was LinkedIn. And excited to get more engaged with the clients. I think we can do that better with followers. Sorry, I think we can do that better by mastering one of the social medias instead of just kind of shotgun across all of them. So I'm excited to see how many people we can generate, get more exposure, and get more listeners and followers for even our channel here.
Yeah, and I'll just say, I know My Biz Coaches on LinkedIn, great newsletter there. So if you're looking for tips, definitely go sign up. And
the new newsletter, Entrepreneur's Edge, that we just launched.
That's
1,500 subscribers in 48 hours.
Yep. Not bad. Must be some good stuff in there, right? So
pretty excited.
Check out both Eric's page and My Biz Coaches and sign up for both newsletters. A lot of great stuff. If you run a small business, you lead a small business, you work in a small business, just a lot of great tips. You definitely want to check it out.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, Eric, always a pleasure. Thanks again. And for those watching and listening, we'll see you on the next episode of the Biz Coach Show.
Awesome. Thanks.